after many, many lifetimes on your hands and knees, after many lifetimes of ceremony and religious rhetoric, you got very, very tired of the religions. You saw what was happening. The mind was taking over. Religions were losing their hearts. Religions were becoming very dogmatic and rote.
I think there's always been a unified spiritual path that's called being human. We've just become incredibly wound up in the wire of our own traditions and become attached to them in the worst possible sense. If we look at the Buddhist understanding of attachment, we've become terribly attached to them, so attached that we don't feel we can function, live and breathe without them. That's not a liberation. That's not a liberation into a loving, conscious state. That's a slow death.
As long as the mind is talking and chattering, then we're caught up in a loop that is self-created. And so when that dissolves, we have the possibility of seeing something different. And then the mystical traditions say that when the mind ceases, when we enter that state of quiescence, that we have the opportunity to glimpse the self or the soul.
We've got to get the left brain out of the driving seat. It's, if you like, the movie screen in the theater that we're watching. When you get back to the projector and you see where it's coming from, the foundation of all control, no matter what form it takes, is control of human perception and the manipulation of human perception. And the more that you can shut people's multidimensional awareness down and lock their decoding perception process into the five senses, the easier they are to control.
For those who think humanity is headed on a bad path right now, stop for a moment and realize that by healing the past, tomorrow is different, because it's no longer the path of karma or destiny. It becomes the path of choice and imagination. The mind is such a perfect place to escape having to deal with the love of yourself.
You have to go inside yourselves and start listening and learn about something much deeper than changing policies and moving money and lowering the base rate. And it's just not going to work. It doesn't work.
There's been a filter on the right brain half of human beings. At the current time, we are living in a new level when it is pulse by pulse the right brain half that is being strengthened. Not only will the dominance of the left brain culture come to an end, but also the dominance of the Western Hemisphere.
When a well-packaged and managed web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses, the truth will seem utterly preposterous and the speaker a raving lunatic.
If you are a left brain dominated person and you meet a right brain person or a whole brain person, you're going to think they're crazy or off the wall or extreme, because you're decoding reality in a completely different way to them.
You can occupy your mind with facts and figures, and so you can forget about loving you. You can build this false temple of the mind to pretend that you're smart, or to pretend that you know things, but you're still running and you still know it.
There is a side to the human condition that will always want to remain in the dark, remain in the shadows. It takes a lot of courage to look at the more negative aspects of yourself. Simply turn around and take a look and say, okay, this is part of me. There is gold in the dark.
As you know, a light falls on an object, it casts a shadow. The shadow reminds us that we are souled beings. That shadow that we have cursed, that shadow that we have run from, that shadow that we blame for putting us into this endless cycle of lifetimes, is our divinity, is our soul. The inward looking self, it is just there loving you. Taking everything of this external expression and transmuting it into depth of the soul, into a light beyond light, into wisdom that is eternal.
Going beyond duality is one of the keys. Now, one of the masteries of the mystery schools in Egypt is to understand the alchemy of mankind and what we're capable of, and look at it as a scale, and we can tip it any way we want. The key behind becoming a master or achieving a level of mastery is to bring balance to chaos. And we literally weave creation within that process of the chaos.
It is an illusion that there is good or bad, dark or light. It is an illusion that there is up and down. For every one of these illusions is just a form of duality. Duality is a mirror for you to see yourself, the darkness within you. It causes you to take a look at your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities, old belief systems that you could be taken by the devil as well as you could be taken by God. Old belief systems in opposing forces. A belief since nearly the beginning of time that there was duality. And all of this causes a type of fear and a type of closure, which holds that belief system even so much tighter. And that belief system, that illusion, creates the duality that you experience in your everyday life. It is time to let those illusions go by the way. For there is no dark and there is no light. It is only consciousness. There is no heaven and there is no hell. It is only consciousness. There is no right and no wrong. There is only consciousness. And within that consciousness is love. It is a bold step to release the need to have opposing forces in your life to create the illusion of reality. Are you ready to release opposing belief systems? Are you ready to accept the oneness and the sovereignty of yourself? Take a deep breath.
I can see it clearly. All this pain, addiction, suffering has been of my own creation. I've been stealing, lying, and fighting with myself and with others. For years I have been destroying my body with momentary pleasures, filling that empty hole inside to cover up my dissatisfaction with life.
I never did believe in myself when I was younger, and I suppose that's because you can't see the light that comes from yourself, because you are inside looking out. You can see your own light when you see the light you create in the ones that you are dealing with, and the words that come from your spirit comes free, comes out, and you see the spirit get lined up inside of them, and you see the glow, and you say, wow, only glow can create glow. So if you spot it, you got it.
To heal your wounds, you really just need to be unafraid of what you've experienced. We have to remember that we've already been through those things and we've survived. Straight up. You know, like here we are. We've still survived. Yes, those wounds have affected us severely and have shaped our lives in all sorts of ways. But once you get the courage to reface your wounds again and bringing all of your intelligence of everything that you've gained through your life to that, it gives you the strength to dive into all of your pain and all of your wounds and to be able to just reprogram yourself from within. You can't avoid it. You have to go through it. You have to like eat it and breathe it and roll around in it, and it's like, just get into yourself, however it takes. And it takes time and patience and a lot of compassion for yourself. And it's not easy, but it's well worth it.
Emotions and feelings are suppressed in the body, they can form a huge energetic cauldron that needs to be released.
What if you allowed yourself to connect back to your shadow and to your divine? Be here on earth as a fully conscious, trusting, and aware angel.
The shamans in South America, they call it the truth medicine. When you take ayahuasca in a ceremonial space, it aligns you with truth. It knows what you need, and it will bring up within you what you need to purge, what you need to let go of. It's a vine and it's a plant mixed together that creates this magic, this alchemy that allows you to let go of these things.
What matters is that we understand that purging is part of the natural process of growing. You know, I know in lots of indigenous traditions where they take medicines which actually help you to vomit up these energies which no longer serve you. People call it getting well.
So what happens is when you take the blend of these two plants, the vine prevents the enzymes in the stomach from throwing out surplus DMT, so that it goes through the stomach wall and into the system. It takes about half an hour or an hour to work, depending on the strength. The solo journey. It depends what you're taking it for. Whatever it is, it's just not a recreational drug. You would not do it for fun. You put your intention into the brew, knock it back, and keep your fingers crossed.
Plant medicines. Now there are many plant medicines. There are some plant medicines that are for the physical, some are for the mental, some are for the mind, and some are for emotional. But there are some plant medicines that we take that allow us to travel forward and travel backwards in time, what some people would call astral travel.
People had great reverence for the plants. They actually spoke to the plants, and they had the ability to see the energy of plants. They could tell you which plants were poisonous, which plants were edible, you know, which plants were good for different ailments. And they could also see the power plants. And the power plants are endowed with divine energy. And these plants are here for a reason, and they're to help elevate the consciousness of humanity.
I'd have to add a lot of caution in around the use of medicine plants and everything like that, straight up. I think they're essential at certain stages of your development. Too early or not in the right space or done in the wrong way, in a way that's unsafe for your growth, is irresponsible behaviour, I think. And I really don't think that people should enter into using plant medicines without somebody who's got a lot of knowledge of what's going on and is able to hold space for them as they enter through a new doorway.
The plant medicines help greatly because the plants, when you walk the path of plants, they think that we are getting drunk, that we are getting drugged, that we are getting this. My dear people, listen. There is a massive difference between medicine and drugs.
Well, if you use those tools and then allow them to then resonate through the rest of your life and actually integrate it, then they're super powerful. If you use it as a crutch to think that that's going to liberate you in some kind of way, that it's going to somehow magically heal you, and that's not what they're about. And they're not that sort of crutch. You can't avoid doing your work. That's what it comes down to.
Peyote helps raise consciousness in various forms. One, peyote is a heart-opening plant. And the name itself, peyote, means to light up the heart. And I believe that consciousness really comes from not only the mind, but from the heart. And in this sense, peyote increases your compassion to feel love, to feel compassion, and I feel that's the true source of consciousness.
We can stretch time and space, cosmic highways. And when we take certain medicines, we can travel all the way forward and all the way back, and we lock into spiritual DNA. Our cellular memory is in line with our ancestors. We merge the two to become one.
Why the indigenous people and the people of culture and rooted to Mother Earth would participate or utilize the sweat lodge is for primarily purification. It's a cleansing of mind, body, and spirit. It's a place that we can go to in the complete stillness of the dark, go back into the womb of the mother, to humble ourselves, to be back with mother, to be in that wombing area where we've originated from.
So there are many different methods for elimination, for purification. We have traditional methods, which are things like sweat lodges, things like purification ceremonies that have been taken place for centuries, but are still very rooted in our bones. And there are medicine plants that are traditionally used in indigenous tribes, ayahuasca, peyote. These are very, very powerful nature plants carrying nature spirits that will help us to move through those processes.
It's going to turn your life inside out and upside down for a very short period of time. It's going to sometimes even bring what you would call your final spiritual crises while you're in human form. For some of you, a most challenging experience, but it's part of the process of the transmutation of energy. You can make this choice right now to release yourself from the karmic merry-go-round. With a tear in your eye and a song in your heart, let suffering be a thing of your past. bless the shadow.